Hi guys, happy Monday to you. Oh, today we are going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about power against diabetes. And for most of you, you know that my oldest daughter, Isabella, has type 1 diabetes. So a little bit about her story, because I know many of you will be resonating with this, right? Maybe it's your story, maybe it's the story of someone you love. But when Izzy was 2.5, it was the summertime, and I thank God she was potty trained at that time, because I'm not sure I may have caught it as soon. But we'll talk about some of the symptoms of how you can know you have diabetes. But for her, it was constant urination and thirst. And so she was 2.5. We had just potty trained her that winter. It is now the summer. And I noticed that she's really thirsty all the time, but again, it was the summertime, so this wasn't an indication for me, right? So she was drinking all the time, but I was encouraging her to drink lots of water. And then at nighttime, what I noticed, because she was still wearing pull-ups to bed, is I would put her to bed around 7:30, and by 9:30, 10 o'clock, she's up to have to pee, and her pull-up's full. Change her pull-up, think this is weird, put her back to bed. A couple hours later, she has to get up to go pee, goes pee, full pull-up again. So again, because for her, she had not been having anything going on at all in her pull-ups at night. This was a big red flag to me, but for sure, and diabetes was not on my radar. We don't have any type 1 or type 2 in our family at all. And we'll talk about the difference between type 1 and type 2. And I thought it was a UTI, a urinary tract infection. So I take her to the doctor, and he did a urine analysis, and with it you test ketones. So ketones are something that will show up in your urine, and her ketones were all over the map. So he did a simple finger prick with her finger, and this is actually what showed that she had type 1, or she had diabetes. So initially it was, her sugar was actually 42. So a good range is for her is anywhere between 5 and 7. So 42 is quite high. And he just kind of said, okay, you need to go into the emergency department, wrap your head around type 1 diabetes. So that was how our journey started. And even coming from healthcare, working in healthcare, it's very, I'm sure any of you healthcare peeps out there, you can do anything within the healthcare industry, but the second it is your family, your tribe, it's a game changer, right? So it then evolved into a lot of learning, and it was a culture shift within our house. And I had already been on this culture shift of becoming more, really reducing our toxic load and becoming more natural. And that happened with just becoming a mom, right? I became more sensitive in that way. But this was a game changer in terms of how our bodies respond to different things. And we'll talk about that today, right? So my intention for you today is to have a little bit of education around diabetes, what it is, because unfortunately, specifically with type 2 and type 1, it is on the rise like crazy. And all this month, we've been talking about a lot of different diseases. Specifically, we started out talking about autoimmune diseases, and diabetes is just another one of those, unfortunately. So, but your body responds to it a little bit differently. So, welcome to you, and thank you for listening to my story. If we haven't met yet, my name is Dylan, and I am so excited that you're here today. And I really want you to think about what brought you here. Okay, what makes you interested in this? And again, maybe it might be someone you love has recently been diagnosed, or it's really something that is showing up for you in different pockets of your life, and you are really wanting to think prevention when it comes to diabetes. So I am super passionate about supporting people who are motivated to improve their health, which is why I'm all about helping you, create some proactive solutions within your life, right? Remove any compromises and just really up level your health. Okay, so regardless of what your health goals are, I'm interested in supporting you through them and making them sustainable, right? So know that throughout this class, I am not interested in teaching things that are not sustainable. So let's talk first about what diabetes is. So diabetes is a disease associated with consistently elevated blood glucose levels. So blood glucose is it's in the levels of your blood, but it's not really a blood glucose issue as it is an insulin issue. Okay, and we'll dive into more about what insulin is, but blood glucose it's your body's main source of energy, and it's obtained through your diet, through your nutrition. Insulin is a hormone that's produced by your pancreas. And then what that insulin does is it facilitates the glucose taken in from your food, and it helps turn that food into energy. Okay, obviously we need our energy to function. Okay, so when I say food is energy, or when we talk about things like fad diets that say don't take in carbohydrates, this is not accurate information. Your body needs those carbohydrates. Okay, that's the glucose taken in through your food. Then your insulin will break it down. Okay. What happens with diabetes is there's a dysfunction that occurs when the pancreas either doesn't make enough or it doesn't make any insulin at all. So obviously when your body's not producing any insulin or not enough insulin, when you take in the foods that would be higher in glucose, it's not broken down, okay, which is not healthy for your body. So as a result, the glucose then stays in your blood and it doesn't actually reach your cells, and it's stored in other places rather than in energy. But if your sugar is consistent, if your blood glucose level is consistently high, that's not a good thing. Or if it goes too low, that's not a good thing. Thank you to the scientists who founded insulin. I love it. This is again where I am super grateful for the beautiful blend of Eastern and Western medicine. Okay, so this is the heart of where it comes from. But you need to recognize that the buildup of glucose in your blood can cause a number of health issues if you don't keep it in check. So diabetes can affect nearly every aspect of your physiology. So if you have an increase, if you have either consistent high or low blood sugars, it can lead to complications with your cardiovascular health. It can lead to things like stroke, neuropathy, kidney disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, glaucoma, cataracts, cognitive dysfunction, different forms of cancer. Okay, so this is a big epidemic that we are facing within North America. So specifically, I talked about type 1 diabetes, which is what my daughter has. And it's typically found in children, although I have 2 friends in the last 3 years that are in their late 30s, early 40s that have now developed type 1 diabetes. Okay, you can also get diabetes, it's called gestational diabetes, and that's when you're pregnant, but it's typically once you have the baby, your blood sugars go back to normal. Okay, that's just because insulin is a hormone, and because when you're pregnant, you're a little hormonal, word on the street is, this is where it can be impacted that way, and you'll have to take insulin throughout your pregnancy, but then it's finished after that. Type 1 and type 2 are a little bit different. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease where the ability to make insulin is not there. So the beta cells that are actually producing insulin within your pancreas don't work. So this is due to your immune system's destruction of the vital pancreatic insulin producing cells, those beta cells. So type 1 diabetes is managed through either insulin injections or an insulin pump. And it requires continuous monitoring. So recent research as well has been exploring different routes of the reversal of this type of diabetes. But until that is found, it is managed through physically injecting insulin into your body. Okay. So when my daughter was first diagnosed, and within your first year, you really have to learn to regulate your insulin. You're going to be getting different amounts because your body's getting used to the fact that it naturally produced insulin and then all of a sudden it didn't. And then it hasn't been getting it for so long that then you can, and hopefully you can catch it before you go into things like ketosis and which is very dangerous. They were actually surprised that my daughter wasn't in this state when we discovered that she had type 1 diabetes. But because you have varying levels of insulin that you're going to need, they don't allow you to get, well, they didn't for us allow us to get an insulin pump within the first year, which now in hindsight, I think you have so much learning to do when it comes to, carbohydrate counting. You have to understand nutrition. You have to understand what you're eating, because every single carbohydrate that goes into my daughter's mouth has to be counted. So you have to learn things like carb counting and how their body specifically reacts to sugar. So then the pump is the computer that calculates everything, right? So we didn't get a pump until a year, but oh my gosh, it was such a game changer when we did get it. And now, again, my daughter wears this. It's a site that kind of like if you've ever had an IV port, it's a plastic cannula that we either put it in her tummy or her backside, and we change it every 3 or 4 days. And every single thing that she eats, the carbs are counted in it, and we put those carbs into her pump, and it gives her the right amount of insulin, right? Just like when you eat, your pancreas, our bodies are so smart. I love this. Your pancreas says, Delyn ate a chocolate bar. It has 50 carbs in it. And now I'm going to shoot out that much insulin so that her blood sugar levels don't go too high. Okay. So that is type 1. They're suspecting that my daughter actually got it from a virus. So I talk about how she had hand, foot, mouth virus. She had it at 9 months and again at 14 months. Those are the only two times in her life that she was sick. Other than that, she was a very healthy infant child. And instead of her body attacking the virus, it actually attacked her pancreas. So type 1 diabetes, there it is. There's the autoimmune part. Type 2 diabetes, on the other hand, is a form where the body eventually begins resisting the effects of insulin and simply does not produce enough to maintain a normal blood sugar balance. So this type may require you to inject insulin, so insulin therapy, but can be treated for the most part with lifestyle changes such as diet, exercise, stress relief, and then just really close blood sugar monitoring. So a lot of it is lifestyle. And type 2 is typically, it's the most, popular form of diabetes. Not in my house, but in other houses. Type 2 is really on the rise now, with the amount of, because we lead such sedentary lives, the increase of obesity and stress. that we have this day and age is what is causing type 2 diabetes to go through the roof. But both type 1 and type 2 diabetes result, again, in high blood sugars and need constant management. Okay, so I hope that gives you a broad understanding of what's kind of going on. In terms of diabetes development, before the onset of diabetes, what the two have in common is that they go through a stage called insulin resistance. So this actually refers to when the cells change their response to insulin. So in response, the pancreas begins to produce more insulin to bring the blood glucose levels down. Okay, so your body will recognize when either your pancreas doesn't work anymore, when it's not producing those beta cells, or when it's not producing enough. And sugar actually begins to be forced into the cell walls beyond the capacity that is needed. So this excess sugar is then converted into triglycerides. So what that ultimately means is that these are your first indications, and you're going to see things like inflammation happening within your body. Okay, and this is where I love to teach people, not just for diabetes, but for anything. It is so important, because we are all genetically, on a cellular level, we are so different. Okay, and even watching my daughter, she is so aware of her body, right? There's pros and cons to having type 1 diabetes at such a young age. She couldn't even say diabetes. She would be like, I had diabetes. That's what she would call it. She was so little. But I'm telling you, she's going to be 7 this summer. And she knows her body. She understands her body. She listens to her body. And she can say, she'll all of a sudden be doing something and she'll say, Mom, I think I'm low. And she'll go test her sugar. Or she'll say, Mom, I feel off, and she'll test her sugar. So for the parents watching this, that your kiddos are really little right now and they can't communicate with you about how they are feeling, I hear ya. It is very difficult during that time, and you're trying to learn about diabetes and eating and all those sorts of things, and then they're so young that they can't communicate. Know that it gets better, and while they're little, you're just going to be testing their sugar that much more. Okay, things that I did to help with that. She has her blood glucose meter. We named it. We called her. She wanted to name hers Tilly Tester, right? So we have Tilly Tester. And then she had her 2 insulin pens, her fast-acting insulin that she took with meals, and her long-lasting insulin that she would have to last her overnight, right, while she was fasting. And we named those as well. And then when she got her pump, she chose to get a hot pink one, and she rocks it, and she named it Pinky Pump, right? So, and then we had a song that we sang when she would have to get her needles, right? And she loved the song, and she helped write the song. And she would love, even when new people would come over, or we would be out somewhere and she would have to get insulin, she would say to everybody, listen to my song that I get to sing. So there's lots of different, as much as it hurts as a parent to have to create things like that to help your children cope, they are so resilient. Just remember that, okay? They're so resilient, and you gave birth to them, right? So you've been through some hard stuff already. You totally got this, okay? So just remember that for all my parents out there. And with if it's type 2 diabetes that has entered into your life, know that that one is reversible, okay? And we're going to absolutely talk about that. But it's important to understand that regardless of whether it's type 2 or type 1, you are going to go through that insulin resistance first, where you get kind of overcompensated with insulin initially, but then it kind of just fades off that way. So I want to put the spotlight on insulin just for a little bit because it's important to understand. Excess insulin has been found to be connected with almost all chronic and systemic disease. Okay, so unlike with diabetes, you might have too much insulin. Okay, so the roles of insulin include it increases the liver, muscle, and fat tissues uptake of glucose. It increases fat storage. It increases glycogen and stored glucose. It increases amino acid uptake by cells. It increases potassium uptake. It decreases the breakdown of proteins. It decreases the breakdown of fat. And I mean, what does this all mean? Insulin resistance is associated with so many different things, and some of it is metabolic, right? So how your metabolism is breaking down fat as well. With this comes huge risk factors, and insulin resistance is provoked by a number of factors. I already mentioned obesity, specifically in visceral areas, so in your abdominal fat area, high amounts of free fatty acids in the blood, high intake of added fructose, so the sugars that aren't naturally in things like fruit. So if you are having refined white sugar, okay, horrendous for you. Increased oxidative stress and inflammation, prolonged inactivity will do it, compromised gut microbiome. So if you've been watching the classes, whether it was on autoimmune disease, whether it was on arthritis, whether last week it was cancer, this week it's diabetes, if you are noticing a trend, your gut microbiome, and I won't go over it again this week, but if you are going, what the heck is she talking about? Tune into those classes, and I talked all about the things that you can do to get your gut where it needs to be. If you have a nutrient poor diet and even some elements of genetics, but again, don't let genetics be a crutch for you, okay? Because like we talked about in past weeks, genetics is such a small percentage of what actually causes this. Okay, I'm not taking it out completely because there is an element, but it is such a small percentage, and it drives me insane when people automatically go into, well, it's genetics. Well, everything's genetic. I'm made by somebody who was made by somebody who was made by somebody. At some point, we all have to take ownership over our health, right? Enough said, rant done. Luckily, all of the things and many of the things that I've mentioned are their behaviors, okay? They're behaviors that you or whoever adopted, and they can then be modified, right? Which will then lower the likelihood of insulin resistance actually happening, okay? Prevention, guys, is so key. There's so much evidence around ways to prevent or even reverse insulin resistance. Hence the development of diabetes. So in fact, many of these strategies are well known as protection against most diseases and promotion of overall health. So if you do the things I'm going to mention right now, it's just not going to help you prevent or reverse your type 2 diabetes. It's going to help you in so many other areas, okay? Number one, maintain a healthy weight, particularly by losing weight in the visceral abdominal area, okay? Implement a healthy, balanced diet. So again, not saying thou shalt not eat carbohydrates. There is 18 to 25 carbohydrates in a banana. Those are very healthy carbohydrates. Same with an apple, an orange. There's tons of carbohydrates in fruit, right? You become very aware of how many carbohydrates are in things when you have to count them all the time. But again, it makes me I find because I'm used to carb counting meals, I carb count my own plate. And I'm telling you, it stops you from eating that cupcake or that whatever, right? The things that are loaded with those refined sugars, okay? Because you realize what your body then has to do in order to break that down, okay? So do yourself a solid. It might be, this is where I think it's very good for people to understand how to read a label and understand all those little keywords, right? Because we've talked about, I've done entire classes on sugar intake. Again, search it in the search bar. There's a lot of really good information on it and words that you should look for on your labels in order to avoid those foods, okay? But do not avoid the sugars that are attached to fruit. Okay, fruit is good for you. That's why it's here. That's why it's a plant. It's beautiful. So implement a healthy, balanced diet, exercising regularly, quit smoking, reduce sugar intake, take supplements, improve your sleep quality, manage your stress, and just be aware of your blood glucose levels. So if you're ever, whenever you have hunger, that's your body telling you that your blood glucose levels are off, right? That's why but it takes time for that to happen, right? So just like you won't get the want to drink water until you are actually dehydrated. It's your body's way of saying, give me water or you're going to be in trouble soon. But you're already dehydrated by the time your body's sending you that signal. Same with hunger, okay? If you're getting hunger striking, that is your body warning. It's like mayday, mayday, blood glucose levels are off. Blood glucose testing. So this is where just even being aware of it, right? And I know my other daughter and myself and my husband, we'll use her tester and test our blood glucose regularly. Blood glucose testing is an incredible tool to monitor your sugar shifts and how different foods and activities can then impact these levels. So doing this regularly helps prevent the elevation of and your risk of having to take other measures, right? So if you are even slightly curious on, maybe there's been a shift in your body somewhere else, I encourage you to test your blood glucose levels. And I've had friends contact me and say, can I pop over and use your blood glucose tester? And absolutely, like you just switch the needle out of it and test my child or my sugar because I feel like something's off. Unfortunately, with that one time, my friend's daughter was actually, her sugars were very elevated and she ended up having type 1 diabetes too. It's crazy. I want to pull like an Aaron Brockovich and figure out what the heck is going on where all these kids' pancreases are just stopping working. It's crazy. Now that I'm in the community, it's insane, the amount of type 1 diabetes. So you want to test regularly, and this will obviously help with the prevention. The American Diabetes Association suggests those with type 1 and type 2 making sure that they're testing a minimum of 3 times a day. Of course, again, everybody's experience with diabetes is completely different. Some may require more or less of this. I know with my daughter, we test before all meals, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we test before bed. If she's going somewhere where she's going to be really active, right? Obviously, when she's running around or swimming or playing a sport, she's expelling energy, right? Which is then going to lower her blood glucose levels. So we test more often. If she's doing things like going to a birthday party and we know she's going to have something like a piece of cake or a cupcake, something she's not normally eating, but that will stay in her system a little bit longer, we will test more often with that as well. But testing at least 3 times a day, you'll figure out what's best for you. And they even have now what's called a continuous glucose monitor. And it is a little cannula, I guess, needle that you wear on your skin for 10 to 14 days. And it comes with a meter, kind of the size of a cell phone, and you wave it over the monitor and it'll tell you your blood glucose so that you don't have to pick your finger. Cool, right? Overall, self-monitoring of your blood sugar levels is a fundamental strategy for diabetes management. This is this kind of like comes with the territory, right? So if you have type 1, I would highly recommend a continuous glucose monitor as well as an insulin pump, right? And again, there are some people I know that have had, and I love talking to people that are, you know, in their 20s, 30s, 40s that have had diabetes since they were little, right? As a mom, it gives me a lot of hope that, you know, all the things that I picture Isabella doing are always going to be an option for her, right? And I'm not even convinced or accepting that this is a forever thing for her. I think that we're going to do, we continue to do a lot of things between nutrition and energy. And obviously we're going to talk about some plants that she consumes on a regular basis to help manage her blood sugar levels. But just even restimulating that pancreas and seeing what it can do. And science is coming so far too. They're doing things like beta cell transplants and all of those sorts of things. So super cool things that are coming our way for the type 1 community. With diabetes, as much as continuously monitoring your blood sugar is important, there's such a huge component and importance for weight management as well. So as the trend of obesity increases, so does the diabetes epidemic. So I mean, it's not a coincidence that both are rising at the same time. They really do go hand in hand. There was actually a study conducted in 2011 that proved that diabetes reversal with a drastic diet change diabetes can be reversed with a drastic diet change and weight management for type 2. In fact, there was this plant-based low-calorie diet showed huge beneficial changes in as little as 1 week, aka a complete turnaround, even within 6 to 8 weeks. So if you have just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or even if you've had it for a while, this isn't new information for you. The second you had that diagnosis, this was told to you by your healthcare provider. But the research is, it's huge, and it's implemented diagnostic techniques such as, MRI imaging, blood sugar monitoring, insulin response tests, cholesterol assessments, and evaluations of, fat over the pancreas and the liver. And I'm actually going to, there's a study that I will link up if I can get it to, I'm going to link up this study that is really interesting. I'm such a research geek, I love it. But it actually is showing the link between that as well. As mentioned in past weeks, there's a huge gut health connection. So bacteria plays a major role in this disease, in many diseases, including diabetes. We often regard our gut health as, kind of this separate entity reserved for matters for our digestive health. However, we know that 80% of our immune system is located in our gut, and our microbial balance within our digestive system is incredibly influential in our overall health. Just like your oral health impacts your overall vitality, so does your gut health. In fact, research has actually suggested that it being just as powerful of a contributor to our health as our relationship with our external environment. Okay, so things like our external environment being, secondhand smoke, toxic chemicals within your home, breathing in things like asbestos, your gut health is just as important as not experiencing those things as well. Did you know that your gut health is linked to diabetes specifically by autoimmunity issues present in the disease? So because this is an autoimmune disease, this automatically, you got to up level your gut health when you have any autoimmune issues. For example, type 1 diabetes has been understood as an autoimmune disease, meaning that the autoimmune system, like I said before, attacks the healthy cells, mistaking them for invaders. But actually research in type 2 diabetes has increasingly been finding more evidence of autoimmunity as well. So it's not, they're two sides of the same coin, okay? And this is where it's so important to recognize that your food is your medicine, okay? There's different, for type 2, there's, different medications that you can take. But you will notice if you completely overhaul your nutrition and what you are fueling your body with, those medications are not necessary. Try it in partnership with your healthcare provider, but they will 100% back me on this. That just like with anything, it seems like a quick fix, right? Whereas with type 1, your best friend's going to be your insulin. Type 2, your best friend's going to be your nutrition and moving, right? There's numerous diets that claim to be, the answer to your diabetes. And it's hard to pick which one might be right for you. The one thing that we can agree on in terms of what's necessary in navigating diabetes is that your diet needs to acknowledge its glycemic index, this is the scale used to measure your body's insulin response with particular foods. And it needs to include your glycemic load. So this is the amount of food eaten that will raise your insulin. So insulin is one of the only hormones that we have that the power begins with your fork. Okay, so you need to pay attention to what you're telling your insulin response to do. Okay, there's such huge power in plants. So I'm gonna post a YouTube video that is I absolutely love it, and it talks all about. I'm gonna post it in the comments here. And it's a really powerful video on the power of plant-based diet for people with diabetes. Okay, so after this class, I want you to have a look at that video. And a common misconception with plant-based diets is that they are carb heavy and not fit for those with diabetes. Instead, research has been proving that plant-filled diets have the ability to reverse the diabetes as well. So if you are taking in a plentiful diet, you have a decreased saturated fat intake, increased fiber, more vitamin and mineral absorption, less exposure to nitrates and sodium, considerably less inflammation, lower cholesterol levels, more controlled blood glucose levels. This is exactly what you are looking for if type 1 and type 2 diabetes are part of your life. And many of the studies supporting this included at the end of I will include them at the end of this class so that you can actually see the links to them as well. And this is where I really empower you to let your healthcare provider know. And I feel so fortunate that both the teams that I'm working with, both at our local hospital, and we go to actually see an endocrinologist at London Health Sciences as well. They are very accepting of the fact that we are really paying attention to nutrition, supplementation, and using plants to support our bodies. So, but it all starts with empowering yourself and really feeling comfortable enough to talk to them about it. And if you get nothing out of this, Again, I'm going to emphasize the dangers of sugar. Okay. And even we were talking to our kids about this last night. If we had known how bad sugar was for us when we were kids, and even I wouldn't say I consumed sugar as much as even some of my friends did when I was little. But still I think had my parents known the impact that sugar would have on our bodies, we wouldn't have been consuming it at all, right? It's unfortunate that the most abundant anti-nutrient thing in our diets is sugar, and it is absolutely wreaking havoc on our health. In fact, there have been strong links between the increasing presence of sugar in our food supply with the prevalence of diabetes in our world today. So again, no coincidence that they're both on the rise. There's actually a couple of doctors that work together on research of the close connection between sugar and diabetes. And what they found was very alarming, maybe not surprising though. They found that more sugar meant more diabetes. So for example, for every 150 calories of sugar per person per day, diabetes rose by 1% in our population. So the figure that was present, they did this with controlling factors with obesity and physical activity and just overall the increase in our caloric intake, and then the fact that we just sit around after, okay? To put this in a little bit of perspective, one 12-ounce can of pop or soda is approximately 150 calories of sugar, okay? So again, I've never really been a pop drinker. I don't like the fizz, it's gross to me, but I know a lot of even kids when I was little, they were always drinking pop, right? You want a quick win? Just if you don't want to replace, if you're just like, no, I don't like anything that's green to eat, just cut out pop. It would be a huge, huge thing, because you look at the increase of Coke and Pepsi products that have kind of taken over in the last 50 years. This is again, huge increase of diabetes because of it. There's a huge need to really incorporate, instead of sugar, these essential nutrients. So diabetics are often deficient in many nutrients that the body is needing to function properly. So a few of the most common nutritional needs of those with diabetes, regardless of the type or stage, include alpha lipoic acid, which is the nutrient. It's the anti-inflammatory, and it's an antioxidant. It's ultimately responsible for turning sugar into energy. Okay, there you go. Magnesium is another one. So magnesium is the mineral that's responsible for energy production and nerve function. And actually, according to the American Medical Association, an estimated 50% of the US population is deficient in magnesium, okay? Your body needs this in order to function. Ways to help produce those is to make sure that you are supplementing properly. So big things that we do to supplement, and again, I talk about them all the time. I love the Doterra Lifelong Vitality Pack. It has absolutely everything that you are needing in order for your body to function at its highest. Okay, so regardless of what you are suffering with, if it is autoimmune, arthritis, whatever, diabetes, whatever's going on with your body, even if you are not suffering with anything, if you were watching this, you were looking for prevention, you need to supplement your body, because our food isn't as nutrient dense as it needs to be in order for our bodies to thrive. I like this pack because it A, comes with everything in one box. B, it's plant-based. There's even, they're in vegan capsules, right? So you are literally consuming nothing that your body can't absorb, okay? There are three different ones. The alpha CRS is to help you on a cellular level. This is particularly important because our cells are constantly turning over, right? And we talked a lot last week with learning about prevention and treatment of cancer cells. This one is very important. Then it comes with XE omega, which is all of your omegas and fatty acids. And then your microplex VMZ. This is the food nutrient complex. So again, recognizing that our food isn't as nutrient dense as it needs to be, this will up level the vitamins that you need. So if you are, it has your magnesium, it has everything you need for your vitamins A, B, C, E, all of your fatty acids that you're needing. And then it also has all of the plants and the essential oils of the plants that you are needing in order to thrive. So things like frankincense, thyme, cumin, wild orange, peppermint, ginger, caraway, German chamomile, lots of different things in here that are just going to, yes, I've noticed a difference in my nails, my skin, my hair, all that kind of stuff. But it's my digestive system, right? So you talk about your gut microbiome, that bad boy right there, love it. Another thing that we do is we pay attention to our kids and their gut health as well. So every day, again, whether it's Isabella or Allie, they are taking the A to Z chewables for kids. And again, this has an increase of vitamins A, D, C, E, K, magnesium, all of the nutrients that kids are needing, as well as, we're taking our probiotics, right? So I use Doterra's PB Assist because it's a good quality probiotic. And we've talked about in other classes how it's important to have a probiotic and a prebiotic so that the probiotic actually works. And this is something you should be taking all the time. And Doterras are actually double encapsulated, which means that the first capsule will break down when it hits your stomach acid, and then the other capsule slowly breaks down so that it actually gets in and reaches your intestines and supports your gut that way, right? Your gut isn't just your stomach, right? It is entry to exit. And then my kids take the PB Assist Junior, which is just this little, it's like a little pixie stick for my 80s and 90s kids, you know what I'm talking about. And it tastes delicious, but it has the amount of active microbials that kids are needing for their gut as well. And even for adults, if you don't dig, swallowing supplements, grab these ones up. They're super good quality. And again, my kids just eat this it's just powder in there, like a pixie stick, and it's unreal. Works really, really well. So highly recommend making sure that you're supplementing properly. And then the third key after we are looking at our nutrition and supplementing is getting movement. Regular exercise, particularly high intensity interval training or HIIT training, has shown to provide significantly lower insulin levels and in turn decreasing diabetes complications, okay? So increase in exercise means that it's burning calories, which then aids in things like weight management and decreasing your fat cells, right? Which we talked about particularly in the abdominal area. Exercise also increases your sensitivity of your insulin receptors, which then lowers your blood glucose and insulin demand. Your exercise helps your body detoxify and mobilize get the toxins moving and stimulating your lymphatic system, okay? And this is something that can only be stimulated. You can't fake it. You can only stimulate it through moving, right? And it's our lymphatic system that, you know, keeps everything moving and pumping and sweating. It's so important to get that stuff out, right? Exercise also activates over 500 genes in your body and allows for a more efficient utilization of your hormones. And insulin is a hormone, right? So you have like 50 hormones that are controlling everything that's happening within your body, insulin being one of them, right? Movement helps stimulate those. Exercise also helps to control things like hunger, decrease food cravings, and the regulation of your body's energy storage, okay? So, you know, the option of, you know, not eating is not healthy, because then your fat's just going to store. But your, you know, if you are more likely to say, want to snack late at night, try moving instead, right? Take the dog for a walk, get on a treadmill to watch Netflix or whatever, right? At the end of the day, exercise just feels good. I'm one of those people, that sometimes I really have to like give myself a pep talk to want to exercise. It's not something that comes innate to me. It is now part of my habit, right? I've made it a habit to work out. And I always feel like a rock star after I do it. But before it takes a lot of coaxing, right? But it's all of the benefits that come with it, okay? Stress is another big one. And if you're exercising regularly, you will notice a decrease in your stress levels. 90% of doctor visits can be connected to chronic stress in some way. So it makes sense that when you consider that all disease is impacted by stress, diabetes is no different, okay? And I can tell you, you know, when my daughter is, you know, between the ages of 2 and 7, she has had, you know, the normal toddler freak out moments, or even now she's very much like me in the fact that she feels everything in a big way, right? And she's very sensitive, and you know, so she could watch a sad movie and be in tears, or her sister could look at her the wrong way, and she's in tears, right? She's just very sensitive. And I can guarantee that after she has, whether it's a anger temper tantrum or just emotional meltdown, that her sugar levels will be thrown off because of it. If she is not feeling well, her sugar levels are thrown off. Like if her body's fighting a cold or something. Or if her, if she's having a growth spurt, again, hormone levels, her sugars, her glucose levels will be elevated. But stress is one of those things that, you know, you might be saying, okay, I don't have diabetes, or, you know, I'm not really concerned about that. You should be concerned about your stress levels, because it's not just diabetes that it impacts, right? Stress has 3 different ways that it can impact an individual, and that is, you know, physically, chemically, and emotionally, and obviously a combination of the 3, right? Stress affects diabetes specifically by decreasing the insulin receptors sensitivity, raising cortisol levels, causing sugary, salty, and fatty food cravings, and raising your blood sugar. Fortunately, there are many ways to manage your stress. And again, exercise is one of those things. I love to, and my daughters and I do it regularly, just like deep breathing, meditating. I'm constantly telling them to take deep breaths. We use our essential oils a ton for this. Big ones that I love to use. Lavender is a big one. Frankincense, copaiba is another one. These are all very calming plants, right? So just dropping a drop in your hand. So I have copaiba right here. If I put a drop in my hand, and then I'll rub my hands together, create a scent tent, and take 3 deep breaths in. My husband and I take a number of oils in a capsule every day, frankincense and copaiba are included in those. Another thing that you want to pay attention to is your sleep quality. Again, when Isabella hasn't had adequate sleep for whatever reason, she's usually a pretty good sleeper. Her sugar levels are way off. Inadequate sleep leads to metabolic damage, glucose imbalance, increased food cravings, and just really breeds risk factors associated with many diseases, including diabetes. Studies have actually linked sleep quality to the prevalence and the degree of insulin resistance. So the results actually prioritize that 7 to 9 hours of high quality sleep is needed to reduce the cellular inflammation and insulin dysfunction. Okay, so there you go. Again, my oils really show up for us in this area. Get a diffuser, put it in your room, put some lavender, some frankincense, maybe some of your tree oils. Your trees, just like the roots of a tree, are grounding into the ground. These are the plants that are going to ground you and help you to sleep, okay? Cedarwood, vetiver, these sorts of oils, okay? And then even doing things like journaling right before bed, get it all out so that your brain's not going, okay? And even if you don't feel like your brain's going, just journal it out anyways, so that if you wake up at 2 a.m. to go pee, your brain's not then gonna go, okay? You have power over this. My key theme, okay? Other strategies to help you overcome diabetes, again, really amping up your supplementation. I'm a huge advocate for the Lifelong Vitality Pack and probiotics, but then I also take things like Terrazyme, which is active digestive enzymes, so that my digestive system, so that my body can focus on balancing and doing what it needs to do, not every time I eat, all my focus, all my body's energy is going to my stomach so that I can digest my food, right? So Terrazyme is a big one for that. Those are active digestive enzymes. And then taking things that help me hormonally. And I mean, if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, if you're a woman, let us know how this has even impacted things. I mean, my daughter doesn't have her period yet, so I haven't had to think about that one yet. But I'm sure when that comes, it's going to be a whole new set of things that we're going to have to go over, right? But you absolutely have things that you can do. And when I go to, one of the first things I did when Isabella was diagnosed was I went to my trustee, because I love to work plant-based medicine into my life, right? And if this is something you are looking to do and you do not have this app yet, highly recommend it. You can either get the book off Amazon, I believe it's about $35, or the app is called Modern Essentials Plus. The nice part about it is you can search by plant or you can search by ailment. So I searched diabetes. So it tells me what diabetes is. It tells me the common plants that are going to help support the body through it. The number one suggestions, it's coming up on here, are cinnamon, rosemary, geranium, basil, ylang-ylang, and eucalyptus are the big ones. And then it gave me a blend. So this blend I made in a roller ball. And I have been using it on Isabella since we got out of the hospital after she was diagnosed. And what this blend is, I'm going to give it to you right now. If you combine in a 10 ml roller ball, again, you can get these on Amazon, combine 8 drops of clove, 8 drops of cinnamon, 15 drops of rosemary, and 10 drops of thyme. Dilute the rest with fractionated coconut oil, so liquid coconut oil. And then what we do is I've also added into it On Guard, which is a blend of high antioxidant plants that help boost her immune system. Okay, so she has autoimmune disease. She needs her immune system boosted. And I add that in there as well, about 10 drops. And we put it on the bottoms of her feet, and over her pancreas every morning and every night. Okay. And this is 365 days a year. This is how it's just, again, it's part of our routine and something that we do. And it has been a huge game changer. I'm not really willing to, use my kid as a guinea pig to see whether, it's working or not working. But some other essential oils that you can use to help with diabetes. There's a lot of research right now on coriander and cilantro. So these seeds they're grown all over the world. Doterra has them extracted into the essential oil bottles already. I use them both for cooking, but they're also great at treating things like digestive issues, indigestion, diarrhea, as well. But recent studies have actually shown that coriander specifically may help to fight against diabetes, and that it's because it's shown to help lower blood sugar levels, which is fantastic. Lemon is another one because it's so detoxifying. It has helped. Research is showing that it's helping with reducing blood sugar levels as well. Clove is another big one. Clove is in the On Guard blend, and it's the reason why it's in the blend that I just gave you. Another study showed that clove essential oil might play a very big role in even preventing and managing type 2 diabetes. So the research found that using clove oil reduces levels of certain enzymes in the pancreas that are believed to be linked to diabetes. The study also noted that the oil might be helpful in managing and preventing diabetes that's caused by oxidative stress as well. So this occurs when the body doesn't produce enough antioxidants to battle the free radicals that are happening within the body. Black pepper is another one. So people with type 2 diabetes often have other symptoms such as high blood pressure and circulation issues. A study found that an essential oil derived from your common kitchen spice, black pepper, might provide a way to manage, prevent type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. So again, whether it's clove or black pepper, these are what we consider hot oils. So you want to make sure that you're diluting them, and know that even if you don't care for the smell, this is where having a roller ball, did I bring one down? I didn't. Having a roller ball is really handy because then you don't have to touch it or smell it. And even if you aren't going to put it over the pancreas area, putting it on the bottom of your feet and then putting some socks on so you don't have to smell it is great. I heard your feet probably don't smell that great anyways. Just saying. So because the essential oils are carried through the bloodstream, you put them on the bottom of your feet, they will obviously go through your skin and go systemic through your entire body within 20 minutes. Okay. So you're going to have a big impact. The key is doing it not when you don't feel well, but consistently. Okay. Other oils that might help you, specifically if you're looking for weight loss, because we know that this is a huge factor for type 2, helichrysum and grapefruit are going to be main ones for those with type 2 diabetes that are looking to lose weight. And again, I've done entire classes. If you just search, natural sustainable weight loss, there's entire classes on that as well that you guys can look up and go through those as well. Cinnamon is a key one. Cinnamon is one that we consume cinnamon any way that we can get it. I diffuse it a lot at Christmas time. But it's I just want to smell it right now. Again, this is considered a hot oil. You want to dilute it with your fractionated coconut oil, but it is also very helpful with diabetes. One study looked at the effects of cinnamon and the compounds in it, and the factors showed how it was very beneficial for insulin sensitivity, sugar and fat levels, inflammation, blood pressure, and decreasing and evening out body weight. So that's going to be a key one. And lavender is the last one. So lavender, very familiar plant. Most people look at it for sleeping or relaxing or calming. According to research, it helps in relieving diabetes symptoms as well. So the research is showing that lavender essential oil helped to balance high blood sugar levels and protect the body from oxidative stress that causes complications in people with diabetes. For us, because we know that stress, emotions impact your blood sugar levels. It impacts the insulin in your body and the way it moves about. Lavender has been a game changer in our house, just because I can tell when Isabella is going into an emotional state. Again, take a drop of lavender, put it on her hands, and she'd tense her face and takes 3 deep breaths. And I love this because it's really teaching her something that's twofold, right? I'm teaching her that she has a solution, a natural solution, that she is empowered to use. There's a roller ball of lavender that's kept almost in every single room of our house for this exact reason, because with 4 and 6-year-olds, you never know when you're going to get a freak out moment, right? Same with me too. Who am I kidding? But they can just take that diluted roller ball, rub their hands, so they have access to it all the time, right? I'm also teaching them to take deep breaths. Okay. And breathing and the power of what this does within your body is tenfold. So definitely something that, we could all use a little bit more of. But I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope that you can find some little tips and tricks along the way with this class. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, for those parents out there that have kiddos with type 1, my heart is with you. I got your back. And if whatever part of the journey you are in, reach out anytime, and I'd love to chat with you. If you've had type 1 diabetes for a long time, post a comment in there that gives us some inspiration and hope that life goes on, right? And know that if you've had a recent diagnosis with type 2 diabetes, that you're on the right track and you're on the right page. You are, this is something that all the things that we teach within this community, and the things that you have an entire community of people that are supporting you and loving you through it, right? So know that we got your back, and I hope you guys have such an awesome Monday. See you guys. Have a good day.